Today on Locked On Canadiens, is Carey Price leaving Montreal for good? We've got a trade proposal in the emails we would like to talk to you all about. And then we want to talk about Norlinder. What is his future in Montreal? Is he done here? Is he going to make the NHL next year? What's going on? We were so hyped, and now we don't even talk about him at all. Let's talk about that today on Locked On Canadiens.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 842 of Locked On Canadiens. We are your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Laura Sab, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by Scott Matla of Habs Eyes on the Prize, who put out a wonderful episode yesterday, so make sure you check it out. I wasn't here for it, but I listened to it this morning. It was fantastic. Scott, how are you doing now that I am back and you're not on your own for one night before I ditch you again?
Yeah, surprise. We have a special guest coming on tomorrow that we're going to do some mock draft. We might mock the Leafs, depending on how tonight's game goes, and a couple of other things. We have a bunch of mailbag questions all ready for that. I am personally very excited for that. Now that draft season is fully here, like it is my time to pretend like I know what I'm talking about when I just regurgitate what Tony or Sebastian or Hattie or someone else has told us about players. So
Don't forget the people at Smart Scouting,
yes,
who we will be having on soon as well. We just need to get some ducks in a row. Lots of people we had on last year that people are requesting we bring back. So that's going to happen now that we know where the Canadiens are picking.
Yes, and to set the draft aside here, because we did the draft last episode, and as part of Friday's episode, we're going to do a little mock draft again on that. Now that we know kind of where the Canadiens' picks will potentially be, we know where one is, we'll know where the other is. I guess we kind of get to things that maybe would be big news, but have kind of slid by the wayside a little bit, I guess. Carey Price's house is on the market in Montreal, and I assume he lived in Brossard.
Candiac. He lived in Candiac.
I know where that is.
It's very close to Brossard. It's all South Shore Montreal. So yeah, so somebody found this out and started tweeting about it. I actually got a message from a good friend of mine about it in the group chat. We went and stalked it. I mean, it wasn't super surprised because Angela Price had kind of dropped that bombshell on her Instagram a while ago, being like, we're moving back to Kelowna. Now that the house is on the market, he's not officially retired. We don't know what's going on, right? But like at this point, he's on LTIR. If he retires, he doesn't collect the money that he's owed for the rest of his contract, for the duration of his contract, which right now doesn't look too long. It's only a few years left, but it's still a lot of money that the Montreal Canadiens will be paying him that he wouldn't be eligible to get if he officially retired. But we kind of know the writing's kind of on the wall. It's been a while. Like we've been preparing ourselves for it all season. It's kind of sad, but like it's so weird to have it like really out there, you know? Like what happens if he heals? What happens if he's ready to go in September? Does he like come back and rent an apartment by himself?
Carey would probably love some peace and quiet. He'd probably rent a tree stand and just stay in that if he could. Like the thing about this is we knew he was moving back to Kelowna at some point. Like Angela Price made it clear they were building their next home there. Even with everything, I think there was part with like the wildfire that damaged part of it. There was a fire there that kind of put that on hold. But we've known he was going back there. And we saw this with Shea Weber last year. He's LTIR retired at this point. And he will come back into the city for physical testing to be proven. I am not healthy enough to play. Put me on LTIR. And depending on what the Canadiens cap looks like, they may still need him because they need that $10.5 million in LTIR space. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. And as we get closer to the regular season, we'll talk about this ad nauseum again. And I also think the Canadiens are going to do right by him. They're like, we're not going to force you to retire, but if you choose to, we understand. But they don't really seem to have an issue with paying Carey Price that money. Carey Price, even not playing, has been worth $10 million a year to the Canadiens in so many different ways. For the fans, though, you keep seeing he's coming back. He does physical testing, is not available, but he's on LTIR, and you keep seeing his name there on Cap Friendly and in other places. And it hurts a little bit knowing that, nope, you will not see number 31 on the ice at any point in time. It is very sad, but I also do wonder that if he's just, I want to be out of the spotlight. My time has come and gone. I would like to be having my own private life now. And he says, I'm retiring. One, it'll hit us like a pallet of bricks falling out a third story window. And I don't want to, I'm not ready for the day that it happens, but I also know that the ceremony in which Carey Price retires at the Bell Center will be one of those ones that people will talk about for a long, long time. Look at the ovations he gets just being at games, let alone being one where he announces his retirement to the Canadiens fan base. It's been a long time coming, but now it's really, really real at this point.
Right, and that's it. So, he's gotten some send-offs. He got a standing ovation at the beginning of this year. I think there will be a fitting tribute. There will be a fitting ceremony for him whenever the official day does happen. It's just very sad to me because he hasn't been around for a while. We know that. We were used to seeing the team without him, but the actual official moment caps off some really fun runs that he was literally the backbone, the architect, he's given us a lot of joy in Montreal. It's been really fun. And if you're a Canadian hockey fan, he's also given you joy on the world stage, on the Olympic stage. So it's gonna be a sad goodbye, but we're gonna turn from sadness to spiciness. I'm gonna tease our next segment literally by saying the following thing. The subject line of the email was a spicy trade that you won't like. Are you curious? Are you curious? You're curious. You're curious. And we're going to talk about that in literally just one moment. But first, I got to tell you that this show is brought to you by Gametime. How often do you find that the artist that you love is going to be in town, you miss the boat on buying tickets, and then you have this mad scramble and you're overpaying, trying to get your hands on some tickets to whoever you want to see? For me, it's usually a stand-up comic. Getting tickets should not be that stressful. It really, really shouldn't. Get Gametime. Gametime has flash deals and it's so easy to use. It is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Forget stalking your faves on social media. Forget, all these algorithms and stuff like that. Just go to Gametime because Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, the off season is what I like to call silly season. It is the time where we can discuss whatever we want, and we've got an email from Christian G. It was meant for the mailbag, but I really wanted to talk about it right away. Here's the email. Obviously, as I said, the subject line is a spicy trade that you won't like. Here's the entire email. If Caufield doesn't sign an extension, would you do this trade or would the other team? To Montreal, first overall pick, Connor Bedard. To Chicago, Caufield is an RFA, fifth overall, so the rights to Caufield, essentially. Fifth overall pick, Logan Mailloux, Philip Machar. And then this is contingent on the Canadiens getting Dubois from Winnipeg as well. The only reason I do this is because we have a great prospect pool and have more first-round picks coming.
So, I mean, yeah, but also no. If it's contingent on getting Pierre-Luc Dubois, I understand. I am now at the point, now that I know they're not picking first overall, that I can talk myself into, yeah, we can make Pierre-Luc Dubois work this offseason, because if they get PLD, it opens up more opportunities getting a Mishkov at 5th overall versus drafting another center, or God forbid, drafting a defenseman, because they've gotten that next in their prime center there in Dubois. I look at what you are giving up. You are giving up a defenseman who posted 20 plus goals in the OHL, who's playing in the OHL title game, and has a kind of untapped athleticism and physical aspect that some of this Canadiens prospect pool lacks. We see it in different places. We see parts of it in Arbor Jackey's game. We see parts of it in Jaden Strubal's game. They're still developing there to go. I can understand why you would dangle Logan Mailloux as a prospect, because he has the goal scoring totals that other GMs are going to look at and go, I can get that to work in the NHL. But adding in Mashar as well is you are stripping away some potential high-end assets out of your prospect pool at that point. 5th overall is fine. That I understand has to go. I don't love the idea of that because, yeah, they have more first-round picks. Their next one's likely going to be in the late 20s at this point. And, yeah, they're getting Connor Bedard. But they're also losing their best goal scorer, arguably probably one of their best players under the age of 25. That isn't Nick Suzuki or Kirby Dach at this point. It's giving up a lot, and you got to wonder is, yeah, you gained this one big asset, but did all the other pieces that you gave away up to that point equal what you gained, or is it more than what you gained overall? Yeah, you gained this, but did you give up this? And I can't see Kent Hughes doing that. I think he values Caufield too much. I think they like Mashar. They went and stuck their neck out for him. That's not something I think they're going to give up on at this point. I do like the part of this that it is contingent on Pierre-Luc Dubois. And like I said, I'm kind of in favor of that. I just can't see them doing that. And it would be job on the line, because if it doesn't work out and Caufield goes to Chicago and all these other guys go to Chicago and they hit and Bedard ends up being good but not great to replace that, you're going to hear about it forever, because that's a lot to give up, but you're also getting a lot back. It could go either way. I'm just not crazy about giving up a guy who has 50 goal potential in the NHL right now.
Right. And here's the thing. It's that, obviously Connor Bedard is like, oh, generational talent and things like that. And yes, you could have him as the cornerstone of a franchise. But let's just look at, a team like Edmonton, right? You can have those first overall picks. You can have those generational talents that are so good it blows your mind. They look like a cheat code on the ice. Where are they now? You know what I mean? Like, it's not enough. You have to have, and in particular, these teams are showing us you have to have defensive depth, right? Look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Defense was a knock on them for a long time. Like, lack of depth was a knock on them for a long time. They're really heavy up front. But like their bottom six, their defense, their goaltending has been a question mark at various points in time. You need all of them to balance out, right? So it's not okay. It's not enough to just have Connor Bedard like that. Like, yes, it changes the course of history, but the assumption is that you have that talent that's around him and behind him. So if you give away, like Scott said, a potential 50 goal scorer, that's not okay. Like, even if we're being conservative, look at his pace this year, right? 40 goal scorer. It's going to happen in his career, and it could happen multiple years in his career. Who are you replacing him with? You need multiple people to replace that one guy with, right? You got to think about who's Connor Bedard going to play with, who's going to play behind him, who's going to be when they're rolling lines, who's going to be behind him. So it just, to me, and at the same time, remember, you're giving up Philip Mashar, who's also an extremely skilled player. He's his first year in North America is not going as great as we hoped, but that's also a function of what a terrible team he's been on, right? So I think, you're also giving away Logan Mailloux, right? And the Canadiens right now, we're talking about the fact that, yeah, they've got some great prospects, but they do not have a defensive identity, right? Everybody has been watching Logan Mailloux this year. Everybody has been hoping that he, takes the right steps on and off the ice. And it looks like he has been, and we're going to talk about him in the next segment. It looks like he's been working really hard to do that. And maybe he's not going to be your second pair defenseman, your second number 2D alongside Caden Gooley or whatever. Maybe he's going to be your second pairing defenseman, but he's still an extremely good defenseman. So you're giving away one of the possibilities of your future decor at the same time. You got to be careful. Like, you're giving away a lot, you need to have pieces to build around the Connor Bedard. That's why it would have been ideal if the Canadiens had won the lottery this year, because they have all those pieces. Like, and I'm not forgetting about Slafkovsky's existence. I just think that you need Cole Caufield as well.
And just to kind of put a bow on this, there's no guarantee Chicago will say yes to this either, because this is a team that I think, if they are smart, which remains to be seen on a lot of different levels, isn't going to try and just jump ahead of the line in a rebuild here. And like, we got Bedard, okay, we're ready to contend again, when they have so many other holes in the lineup. There's no guarantee that they want to just take the biggest piece of their rebuild, that they are starting here and they can jump up to here with Bedard and then build and build and build on that with all the other pieces from their trades and into the coming seasons here. There's no guarantee they'll take what the Canadiens are offering too. Admittedly, I think it's a pretty decent package that gives them at least one definite NHL player, one guy who's going to be in the AHL next year, and Machar, depending on if he goes back to junior or if he plays in the AHL next year, and 5th overall, who will give you another talented prospect. There's a lot that can help there, but at the same time, you have a superstar on your hands. And we've seen how much money they've made in season ticket sales and everything else, disgusting as that may be. They're not about to yank the chair out on that one right there. It's a very interesting proposition. I don't think it's for me, and I don't think Chicago would say yes. They'd probably want more. They'd probably want Nick Suzuki, if we're being quite honest with you, which you should immediately say no to, but that's also personal bias speaking.
So the title of the subject line of the email was "A Spicy Trade That You Won't Like." The thing is, I really liked this discussion. I know, trade proposals and stuff like that, sometimes people laugh at it, but I just really enjoyed talking about this. So thank you so much, Christian, for your email. As for the rest of you, if you would like to send us mailbag questions, don't forget there's another segment coming up, so don't check out just yet. But you can send us mailbag questions, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can leave them in the YouTube comments. Just put mailbag question at the beginning so we know you want us to bring it up on the Friday mailbag. You can also tweet us at LO_Canadiens. Any questions that Scott and the special guest don't get to, I'll be here next week and we'll redo, we'll recap, we'll re-up the mailbag and we will do those questions at that time. In the meantime, we've got another segment because we just talked about Logan Mailloux and we are going to bring him up because we want to talk about Norlinder, what his future with this team is, and what's been going on, what he has to do next year if he wants to stick around in this organization. And that's all coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. All right, Scott, let's talk about Matthias Norlinder. We were so excited about him for years and years and years, and then he came over to North America. I do think that the Bergevin regime kind of handled him or mishandled him and his development. There were some injury issues, and for whatever reason, this year he seemed to completely fade into obscurity unless you were paying close attention to the Laval Rocket.
So my big thing is they brought him over and he was set to play games last year. He was in the NHL playing games last year. And because he started playing a little bit with the Rocket and then he went to the NHL, and the Canadiens had situations. They were not good at the time when Mattias Norlinder was called up last year. And by last year, I mean, obviously not this past season, the season before that under Dominique Ducharme. And there were moments in these games that it would make sense to play Norlinder in this situation. Hey, they've got a 4-on-3 or 5-on-3 power play. His strength is moving the puck. Hey, they are 3-on-3 overtime. They could use someone who can skate fluidly and move the puck very well and contribute offensively. And Dominique Ducharme seemed just allergic to playing him in any of these situations. And I don't know if he's trying to protect the young defenseman and not overexpose him or whatever. And it just didn't work. And then he was in the AHL for a little bit, suffered a bit of an injury. He ended up going back to Europe, came back for this season, and he kind of got lost, like you said, in the shuffle. Wasn't good enough to crack the NHL roster where Jacky and Gooley and Harris and everyone made the team. And in Laval, William Trudeau and Justin Barron had most of the special teams opportunities, and they just kind of gave Norlinder PTO guys, third pairing guys on his pairing, and he can't do what he does best, and that's being aggressive with the puck, getting deep in the offensive zone, because the other guys can't carry the weight on the backside of it. They can't defensively carry it. So he gets, kind of the blame, the minuses and this and that. He has moments where he looks like that guy. He's aggressive in the play, good shots, good puck distribution. It's a confidence thing. And then, of course, last year in the playoffs, he's playing fairly well, all things considered. And then he gets brained at the end of a blowout game and misses the rest of the playoffs when the Rocket really could have used that. I'm not ready to give up on Matthias Norlinder, but I am kind of readjusting where my projection of him goes. All that skill and talent is there. It's just kind of hidden behind this like shell of self-preservation that I want to see him be more confident with the puck, skate the puck out, jump up into the play, use the smarts because he knows how to read these plays well. We've seen it with Frölunda and we've seen it after he was drafted. We know he can do these things. Just one, injuries don't help, and just have confidence in your play. Don't second guess yourself. Go for it and make that effort. And I think we're going to see the best from Mattias Norlinder because next year, the Rocket lost 2 defensemen today. Fredrik Allard and Otto Leskinen went back to Europe. One in Sweden, one in Liga. The opportunity for minutes is going to be there in Laval next year. You're going to have William Trudeau. You're going to have Jaden Struble. You're going to have Mattias Norlinder. You're going to have Logan Mailloux. There's big opportunities for minutes there. And I think someone like Norlinder and Mailloux on a power play is a huge opportunity for both of them. I'm not ready to give up quite yet, but we're kind of getting to the end of the runway on how much longer do you have before other prospects, other players come in, because Lane Hudson and Adam Engstrom aren't far off either.
Right. There are a couple people that are in the mix. Sorry, I was trying to look up Logan Mailloux's stats. And for whatever reason, my phone is not cooperating. So if you saw me looking down, that's why. But there's definitely people knocking on the door there. So like Norlinder, I think deserves an extra amount of time for sure. But I think the clock is very much ticking, and I hope he doesn't see it as like a sort of Damocles a little bit, because I really want to see him play up to the potential that we all thought he had. And so that's going to be like my hope for him. In the meantime, Scott, do we have any parting thoughts, or can I plug your episode tomorrow again? And
there's one thing I wanted to just kind of check and see who's there. I know people are down on prospects when they have a bad season, or that, hey, this player played more than they did, or hey, this happened. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes prospects take a little bit more time. And I see people talk about, especially with the Rocket, that why isn't this prospect playing more? Why is this guy getting there? Because guess what? The AHL is still about winning too. It's a developmental league that coaches still want to coach to win in, because you have players trying to fight for professional jobs who are not entry-level deals. You have coaches trying to get NHL jobs. They can't just play kids all the time. In a perfect world, you can play the young guys and win games and everyone's happy. This is not a perfect world. Mattias Norlinder is part of that imperfect world. And looking at the Canadiens development staff and seeing what they're able to do with a lot of guys here, I think that Mattias Norlinder is someone that I have faith in. If that he comes back next year and they go, you're going to be one of the older guys on this defense. You know what we expect. You know this system. Help these other players get adjusted, and we can see a lot from him. If he gets that power play time and he earns that power play time, and there's that word earns, I have faith that he's going to bounce back. I don't think he's going to be a 40, 50 point NHL defenseman, but 25, 30 points a season, power play time, 5, 6 on the depth chart. Honestly, not a bad place to be. And I just don't want people to give up on said players so quickly. Outside of that, that is the last little bit that I got for Rocket and prospect talk in this episode.
And tomorrow is an episode. Scott has a special guest. There'll be mock draft, but there'll also be mailbag questions. And anyone Scott and his special guest do not get into, we will do next week. But if you want to send us mailbag questions, you can do it at lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. We've already got a few. We're very excited about them. You can also post them in the YouTube comments. Just put mailbag question at the beginning or something to do with mailbag so we know you want us to bring it up on a Friday. And also you can tweet them at LO_Canadians. You can also DM them to us on the Canadians Twitter account. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are at Scott Matla for Scott, the active stick for me. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, leave good reviews, tell your friends about us. The more people know about us, the more content we can continue to bring you because as you know, we are your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for listening. Scott and a special guest will be back tomorrow.